G'day Australian men and women, and welcome to the Red Pill Sparky. Today I'm talking to Chris Jahn from jahngroup.com.au. We're going to answer some frequently asked questions about two ways that the people can take a big step towards putting the wealth back into our hands. And that's self-managed super, and we'll also talk about buying gold and silver. And a couple of things for the record here and right off the bat. This channel is not financial or legal advice. As usual, this video is for entertainment purposes only. Viewers are advised to do their own research and to ask questions like fucking always, and to follow the money. That is, if the flat screen in your lounge or that life support system in your hand is telling you something and you need to ask why, like what's in it for them, why would they be telling you this? And if it's a leader telling you, well, the fact that you consider them to be a leader may be a mental health issue for you and something to look at very urgently. It could be statism, just saying. So let's unmuddy the waters a bit about self-managed super and buying gold and silver, both through your self-managed super fund and privately right now. And we'll welcome Chris Jahn. G'day, Chris.
Yeah, g'day. How are you today? It's great to join you on the podcast.
Fantastic, mate. I don't know where you are, but I'm here in this big tube that I live in with trees. And it's a wacky place. You're all the way over in WA. I'm over on the east of Australia, and isn't technology wonderful? We've got all these new ways we can annoy each other across such a wide expanse of land, mate.
Yeah, we're in. I'm in Perth, WA, and we've got an office not too far from the city, and we do help clients all across Australia, and it's pretty easy to communicate these days over video and talk with people and develop a good relationship with people wherever they are.
For sure, man. And tell us a little bit about Jahn Group and what services you offer. Or Jahn, do you say Jahn or Jahn Group?
That's Jahn. I run a company called, it's actually called Jahn Super, and we specialise in the setup of self-managed super funds and also the ongoing compliance and administration, and also we help with taxation strategies through that superannuation systems. So we do know a lot of loopholes that people can access. So I've been a tax accountant for around 25 years. I mainly did business services and individual income tax return and super fund for the last 25 years, but I've specialised more in the last year on SMSF. And yeah, it's been a real interesting few years for me, as back in COVID, I sort of, like a lot of people, woke up to this kind of reality that was, a bit of a shock, really, to the system being corrupted by, certain large players. And we'll talk about that further into the podcast on sort of who they are. But yeah, it was a real shock. And like a lot of people during that time, it was very difficult during COVID, like where we basically didn't go ahead with the mandates and we were sort of outlawed from society, or we were stopped from going anywhere. And that was a pretty brutal time. And yeah, personally, I lost work and my marriage fell apart as the financial situation for the family deteriorated with the loss of work and the difficulties. So and a lot of people have been helping over the last few years have experienced similar challenges. It might be a lot of, in most cases, people have lost their work from not going through with the mandates, and we played a really important role in trying to stand up against some of those mandates that came through, which were horrible.
I think a lot of people watching this will be sort of what we like to say, what we call awake, and a lot of people sort of they're just starting to take the red pill and go down the rabbit hole, wherever you are on your journey. Welcome to the video. But it's like, I know, and I'm sure you know a lot of people who really copped it hard. There was this division through corporate government where I know people who lost their jobs as nurses, as this and that and the other, and other people who kept their jobs, but they were coerced into doing something they didn't want to do to keep their jobs. And People now, thankfully, well, the race is on, but people now are starting to smell the bullshit and know now that they've been, the whole time they were pissed on and told it was raining, sort of thing. So,
yeah. And a lot of people that do contact me, they're really good citizens. They're people that have paid their taxes. They're people that have, been great members of the community, and they didn't want to go through with like an experimental, and like those people now are forever changed and will never trust the government again. So serious ramifications for the country when people just turn against the government like that, and for good reason.
I think, unfortunately, the way I put it is like if you know somebody who's obese, like they're 80 kilos overweight, they drink a bottle of scotch every day and they smoke 2 decks of cigarettes and whatever, like inevitably they're going to get a big shock one day and a heart attack or a stroke or whatever it is. Obviously, that's where it's heading. Unfortunately, though, that's what it takes for some people to wake up and turn themselves around. And like that's an analogy based on somebody's health, but unfortunately, it's taken a big thing, a big thing to be the wake-up call, and that's what a lot of people have done. And it's good. It's good. I love seeing that people are waking up. I mean, I know you support the Light Australia, and that's how I got in touch with you. And I hand out those Light Australia papers, as do you, I believe, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
To people, and it's like 5 years ago, people would have thrown them in my face and called me names. Now, it's getting a bit boring. You can't pick a fight nowadays, but you hand them out. People are like, people get it. So that's good, and if it takes whatever it takes for them to wake up. So
yeah, and a lot of people that basically went through these challenges realized that the system has been corrupted, and a lot of their superannuation has been supporting those agendas that were against them. So, vaccine mandates were pushed by corporations and also by the government, and also other agendas like net zero and a bunch of those other global agendas sort of thing. So people sort of were looking at their superannuation going, okay, well, my superannuation's being handled by these corporations or these organizations that are supporting agendas against me. So, we're helping those people take money out of that superannuation system and put the money into their own super fund bank account. They control the money, and then they will start to invest in assets or investments that they feel secure in, or maybe more supportive of their own agenda.
Yeah, and then things that align with their own values. And that's what we will talk a bit more about that. And I might even, this will be a big surprise to you, I might even go off on one of my patented Red Pill Sparky rants a little bit later on. So watch out, there's your warning. I did mention before about people following the money and learning the facts. So I think now's a good time for me to disclose something in the name of transparency, and that's that I've chose to use Jahn Group for my own self-managed super last year. And that was well before this YouTube channel of mine got up and running or up and hobbling so far. And I did that because you're one of a couple of self-managed super providers who sponsor the Light Australia, and that's thelighaustralia.com. And we'll mention them again later on. I like to give them a free plug. It's something that I believe in, and they're really great at getting the red pill out there, if you like. You've also contributed to an advertising stunt, Chris, that I am running, and I'm sort of I'm some way towards raising the funds needed to let's just say get it off the ground. You know what that is anyway. I'll probably do a video about that when the time comes. But so there's that also, and more recently, you and I just the other day, in fact, we started to talk about doing this interview when precious metal prices started to head skywards. And a spoiler alert for everybody, that doesn't mean that a Porsche is about to back into spoiler Dad joke there. We agreed on a discount deal for my viewers through Jahn Group, and we'll definitely tell you how you can take advantage of that, and it will be a win-win-win situation. So make sure you watch this video to the bitter end, and you'll learn how you can take advantage of that special deal. And I do want to talk to you, Chris, about buying gold and silver, or palladium or platinum or whatever else, because that's all very exciting, especially at the moment that everyone's talking about it. But let's start with self-managed super funds, because people will have some questions, as I did when I started mine up and we started the ball rolling. Once we wrap our heads around that, we'll start talking about investing in precious metals and just how easy it actually is. It's easier than I thought. And who knows, by the end of this video, you might start taking the steps to heap all those gold and silver bullions in a pile and get naked and make snow angels on them, or whatever you do in your own home. That's up to you. But self-managed super funds, mate, I think the name itself makes it pretty self-evident, but can you explain in a nutshell to dummies like me exactly what a self-managed super fund is?
Yeah, so it does take about 4 to 6 weeks to set up your own super fund. We do need to get a lot of legal documentation established, and we have to apply for an ABN and TFN with the ATO, and then people have to open up a bank account in the name of the super fund. And then what we do once the bank account's set up is we organise a rollover from people's existing super, and the money is transferred from their existing super, and then it's rolled into that new bank account. So people might roll out a couple $100,000 into the SMSF bank account, and then that money is in control. The members of the super fund, the mum and dads, they have control of the 200,000. They have full access to that money, so they can use that money. Typically, they need to use the money to buy investments for their future retirement, and a lot of people have been buying gold and silver and Bitcoin and property, land, a lot of different assets that people can use that money for. So, and the great thing with like the network that we've been dealing with the last few years is that they have realized that the system has been corrupted, and they were getting into gold and silver early on, and we have seen like a real increase in prices there. You might have seen a couple of weeks ago there was quite a large line of people outside the ABC bullion buying physical gold. So that is an option for people with their super fund money. You can actually buy physical bullion, and you are allowed to store that at your premises. You do have a responsibility to store it securely, but I think in this time at the moment, people do want that custody of the asset and have that in their own possession. So people can go, can contact like an ABC bullion, or there are many gold or silver or metal providers around that people can contact, buy the actual physical gold, and then maybe store that in their safe at home, sort of thing. So that is a really attractive option for people to get that gold and silver and metals with their super fund money. It's safe and it's secure.
Yeah, and it's there's no rule. Right? We're going to talk about some of the rules later on, but there's no rule saying I can't take it out of the safe every now and then, get naked and do that stuff with it. Like, that's allowed, isn't it?
You're not allowed to use the assets for personal purposes. So maybe showing off some nudes with the gold probably might breach. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for that, mate. You can't.
Yeah, mate. Well, look, I've got a few.
Yeah, you might look good on your dating profile with the gold.
I do wear a mankini. I'm joking about the nudity thing, but there are a few other questions I'll ask about what you can and can't, or what that on behalf of other people who like, jokes aside, people will have some legitimate questions. Can I do this? Can I do that? We'll get to all those, but it's what's the average age of people who contact you and ask about self-managed supers?
Yeah, like it does vary. It's usually people in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Usually we don't talk with people who are in their 20s because they don't usually have enough in their superannuation to justify getting into a self-managed super fund, because the fee structure is different from the normal retail and industry funds. With self-managed super fund, they do have these annual fixed costs where the funds have to get audited. There's an ATO levy. There's some administration and compliance costs, and that can cost around about two and a half grand a year to manage your own SMSF. So you do need to have a certain amount in there to sort of justify, having that structure.
It's interesting what you say about people in their 20s may not have enough to merit it, but it's certainly something you ought to, I guess, just keep your finger on that pulse. It's like my older kids there around the 20 mark, and I find myself dispensing the same boring advice that my old man tried to tell me. And I get that if you're nowhere near retirement age, then talk about superannuation and investments. That's not even on your radar. And next month probably isn't even on your radar to you. But I tell you what, when you hit the big 5-0 and it happens like that, you'll be glad that you did yourself some favor, or that you're doing yourself some favors for future you.
Yeah, like the superannuation or the system is really favourable for tax. So, when people are in their 50s, it's a great opportunity to move money into that system. You get a tax deduction for transferring money into your super, and then that can be a way of avoiding the high personal tax rates, because we do get taxed very heavily in our own name. We get taxed at 32 cents over 45,000. So superannuation is great for saving tax as we move money into that system. And then when we get into our 60s, there are opportunities to make a lot of the income from the super fund assets be classed as tax-free. So we can have 2 million of assets per person in superannuation earning tax-free money.
I just love the idea that people are taking their wealth back. And a rant I mentioned is going to come up very soon, and just the idea of certain entities getting their hands on your hard-earned money, whoever you are. I just don't know how anyone would be down with that, But what are you finding with people contacting you? You get all sorts of people from all over the place. What is their main motivator now? Is it just the bottom line, or are you finding more and more people are wanting to put their super into self-managed funds because of ethical standards?
Yeah, like the ethical component is a big factor. Like, a lot of people did lose their jobs or they suffered the last few years, and they're pretty adamant that they don't want to have their money being controlled or handled by nefarious organisations. And unfortunately, the system is potentially, it's run by nefarious organisations for these global agendas that are coming, and people are motivated for good reason. They're motivated to get out of that system and take control of their money. That's probably the number one concern. Like, I do speak to quite a few people who are reading The Light, and that is a great paper. It is shedding the truth on a number of subjects that are sort of taboo to talk about in society. So that's great that paper is helping share the truth. And that's what I see is the people that do contact me about that paper, about reading The Light, they are really concerned about the ethical motives. Some of the other reasons is that, people have been getting 8 or 9%, and that sounds really great, but is 8 or 9% great when inflation's probably 15? So you're probably going backwards. So our clients have been experiencing huge amounts of growth in the last few years. They've invested in assets like gold, silver, Bitcoin, property. They've probably been experiencing more like 30 or 40% growth in their funds.
Wow.
So, like, for example, one guy came to me, he had 100 grand and he put it in gold and Bitcoin, and now his funds doubled within a year. A lot of people do come to me and they're like, oh yeah, my industry fund's getting about 8 or 9%. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. But, you know, assets like Bitcoin have gone up 1,000% in the last 5 years. And their funds don't have exposure to those assets. And, you know, an asset like Bitcoin is attractive to people because it's less likely to be manipulated by governments, and it can't be printed. Like, there is definitely like this worldwide strategy to kill fiat currency, and it's being eroded at a rapid pace. And that's unfortunate. We know about that agenda, like that cashless society agenda. We know that the governments are hugely unethical. They're printing money. You know, how Australia, with a resource-rich country, has $1 trillion in debt is mind-blowing, when, you know, we should have $1 trillion in the bank with all the ore sales, but we know that the government is just completely off the rails.
Keep that in mind, everybody, when we're talking about $1 trillion, right? I found this out recently. $1 million, if we're talking $100 notes, right, which are worth nothing, they're worth no more than a $5 note. It's just a different number on them, right? It's not gold or silver, it's just monopoly money, right? But anyway, we assign value to them. But when you stack them up, you know, $1 million in $100 notes is about 1 meter high. So it's all like about to the back of a chair. And then $1 billion is 1,000 times that. So that's 1,000 meters. So that's roughly the way I think of that is if I go on one of those fucking gruelingly boring motorcycle rides from Melbourne to Sydney or back, if you lay those stacks down all the way from Melbourne to Sydney, one, they wouldn't be there. People pick them up, I know, but this is theoretical. That's $1 billion. That's a lot of money. Now $1 trillion, you stack that up to a fucking space station. That's 1,000 times billion. It's ridiculous. It's unfathomable. And this is how can we even talk about these numbers? It's unpaybackable, you know. It's just
that's right.
It's ridiculous, you know. But I know what you're talking about with the ethics of it all, and you'll find probably the people in. I don't get paid to promote the Light Australia. I do it because I believe in them, and it's thelightaustralia.com. You'll find Chris's details in there. You'll find the details of a lot of good businesses in there, including another self-managed super fund mob. But do shop around. I did, and with I know the ethics of it. And here comes that rant. So Chris, you can go off and mow your lawn or paint the house or something. You've heard it all before, but you know, I know the ethics was a big motivator for me. Yes, I care about the bottom line, of course, but there'll be a lot of people watching this video who just wanted to know about self-managed super funds because of the bottom line, or they just wanted to know about investing in gold and silver because everyone's talking about it and their neighbor did it or someone at work bought some and they're rich. But I'm not called the Red Pill Sparky for nothing. So it's a lot of what these super funds, managed super funds, I'm not going to name any of them, and I don't know which individual ones invest in what or whatever, but it's your money. It's up to you to ask your super, hey, where is my money going? And that's not just, well, it's up to you, but to me, it's not just a question of how much money is coming back. I can read the line. It's like, what are you doing with my money? I wouldn't support certain things, and it's like, you know, why would you support certain? I won't say what I was going to say, but it's, for example, right, as a Sparky, I did a course on solar, right, and that was, I'm just going to go off on a bit of a tangent here, but I did the solar course, right? That was simple enough in theory, and there was a few things that I had to, you know, there's a lot of calculation and everything, which caused my brain to hurt a lot, but, you know, but it's important to get these things right and by the book, and it's the same as the AS3000 wiring rules, which I believe in. Now, I've paid my $2.5 grand to do that solar course, and I got the certificate. right? It's all official, like he's passed the course. That ought to be that, you'd think. Well, here's a hint. If you haven't learned about a certain investment company or two worth 36 trillion US dollars, right? Well, here's a hint as to how it all works. Standards Australia has its own ABN. And you look at how much their reg books cost, that sounds like a business to me. It sounds like they're a corporation. There's your first step into the rabbit hole, right? If you are a Sparky, or maybe you've got plumbing regs or whatever you do. And I believe in the wiring standards, and all my work is done with them in mind, But at what point does it become just a fucking rort? Yeah, It's like where we're just free range or somewhat free range sheep when they let us out on a tax farm, right? And it's not. Please, anybody who says this, please, for Christ's sake, wake up, because the clock is ticking, right? It's not, we have a government and the government has departments, right? That's 1960s mentality, so get with the program. We're talking about corporations from the top down, and Australian government, I believe, is a business name. Look it up. There's a great video called, I don't know if you've seen this, Chris, but What the FUQ, and that stands for Frequently Unanswered Questions. And it's just mind-boggling. This bloke goes, he goes down his own rabbit hole and finds that this is all business. It's not departments of a government, So I've paid this $2,500 to do my solar calls, right? I've passed it, no worries, eventually. But then I've got to pay another $300 a year to some mob, I don't know, cleaner energy cabal or whatever they call themselves. I won't name them, That's $300 a year just to be allowed to apply what I've learned in the course that I've already paid for.
Yeah, you're right.
It's fucking mafia, and I say this all the time in all my videos, and it's zoom out and look at the whole thing, and it could be the case, and it's likely to be the case. I mean, I don't know. I know who's watching this, and I don't know where they have their super at the moment, right? But it could be the case that your super fund is all part of this racket, they're complicit in it. And a lot of them invest in this whole climate change thing or the renewable energy sector, and that's just part of this whole web of corruption where you fucking lose, you just get fleeced at every turn while these gangsters profit. They can't lose. You can, they can't, right? And there's so much bullshit about being spewed out about so-called green energy. I think it's bullshit. And climate change, it's absolutely abhorrent. And in my opinion, it's simply a lie, and it's peddled so that cabals of billionaires, right, not millionaires, they don't get a look in, they cash in at your expense, And there's another video I recommend people watch or listen to. It's Dan Pena. Do you know him?
No.
He's probably never heard of you or me either, but he's worth a bit of money, right? He's done an interview with Joe Rogan and a few other people, right? This one goes for about 2 minutes, and it's called Twisted Truth About Global Warming. And look, I don't like the way he speaks to the lady on the video. I don't think I don't think there's any need for it, right? But because I don't buy into the division thing. I had a customer, I was having a cup of tea with her after I finished working, doing a job at a house, and it's like we're having a chat. She's telling me she votes for the Greens. Well, I didn't label her, I didn't call her names, I didn't just go home. We ended up having a good chat, and we broke bread. And I told her, I think you're doing that because you care about your country, but I think you're misguided. And that's what these cabals don't want us doing. They don't want us communicating. They want us to be divided, But anyway, on this video, this woman asks Dan Pena what people with money are doing about climate change. Well, he goes off, and I don't think there's any need, but he explains that even given the best case scenario of predicted sea level rises, this is all that this fear is based on, and she's right to be scared, if that's what she believes. There'd be a whole lot of the world underwater, and that's just over the next however many years. It's not too far away, these projections of fear which the mainstream media spew out. It's all based on fear. And the finance companies, this is where we get to the good bit, right? The finance companies, the lenders, the people with money, who she's pointing a finger at, they don't lend money for properties, and you know this full well. I'm just sort of dumbing it down, although I'm not an accountant. they're not going to lend money for a property where it's a bad risk, right? You have to have the capacity to pay back the loan, and if you can't, for whatever reason, they have to have what the loan is for as collateral, right? So they can go, well, you haven't paid your money, we're taking the house. Why would they lend a red cent to anyone who's going to buy a unit or a condominium or whatever anywhere near the coast? These people do their homework. They're not dumb, right? They might not be nice, they might not be ethical, but they're not fucking stupid, right? They know, and this is this whole video, his whole his rant forms part of my rant, and it's like, because they know it's bullshit, and the fact that they'll lend you the money to buy anything that's not at least 300 feet above sea level proves it, or at least it should be a big red flag here, a big alarm bell to say, you know, what's going on here. And look, if you're concerned about the health of the planet, again, that tells me that you're decent, right? I'm not going to call you names and, you know, have you call me names because we don't agree on something, right? But I want us to look at this, right? And you're probably worth about 20 of any random bogan who doesn't give a shit about anything, you know. So, but it's when people want wind towers in my backyard, not theirs. If you want that and you're not a direct financial stakeholder and you're against burning coal because you believe it's causing climate change, then God bless you. You know, I appreciate your stance, the reason for your stance here, but zoom out and follow the money and look at all the evidence. And you probably got a few things right, but you're being led by the dick, right? I'm not your enemy. Chris isn't your enemy. I'm an Australian national, and I do give a shit about the same things. Absolutely, I do. I've got kids, you know, but you're being punked, right? Yeah. And this is just based on my research. And, you know, we're talking about things that managed super funds invest in. Once you got self-managed, you can put it where you want. But I dare say you probably wouldn't put it into a lot of things that it would otherwise go into. You know, wind towers, from what I've researched, don't deliver, right? I wish I could say with my hand on my heart that they do.
And they're not renewable, you know, like...
No, they're not. And it's like wind generators or wind fucking power stations. Let's call things as they are. I wish I could say they did that, what they said on the tin, but my research tells me that they manifestly do not. And huge swaths of Australian bush are being fucking destroyed just so that some slime can rub his hands. He probably doesn't even live in Australia. And he can collect his millions or his billions while he sits on his yacht off the coast of Mallorca or something, and he's probably got a bunch of kids waiting on an island, you know, if the evidence is anything to go by. You know, and that's what I see when I hear these greasy politicians who clearly work almost directly for the wind tower cabals. You know, when I hear that, that's the image that comes up in my mind. I don't see flowers and bunny rabbits, and that it's going to be any good for this for the planet, you know. And there's one of these politicians around here. There's more than one, you know. There's one in particular I call her Left Hook, you know. But you don't have to be Columbo to join the dots, right? It's all a fucking con.
It is a massive con, like the whole system is a con. And, you know, what we're seeing is like this mass level of mind control sort of thing, you know, perpetrated by the government and by media. So it's just that messaging to the populace for them to keep believing in these agendas and this, you know, global climate threat. Like, you know, in Western Australia, I think we've probably had the coldest October that I can remember. It's been raining and it's been cold. You know, and the media is not going to come out and say, "Oh, what a cold October it's been." You know, but all we get is we're expecting extreme heat waves coming. You know, and they're just a part of the agenda. That's part of that messaging. That's part of that mind control on the masses. So they're getting groomed.
The silver lining is that I don't see as many people falling for it. Like, it's people generally aren't altogether stupid, right? And it's like in the last 5 years, so many people have woken up and they smell something rotten in Denmark, and if they know that you know, I have conversations all the time with people. I generally, this won't surprise you, I don't give a rat's ass what I say to people. If I think it's the truth, I'll say it, and I hand out Light Australia papers to my customers, and I'm waiting for someone to go, oh, I'll never call him again, because it doesn't happen. They keep calling me back to do more work, so it's,
and some people, they're not going to wake up, and they're never going to wake up, because there is like a certain percentage of the population that wants to be governed harder. Like there's 60 or 70% of the population that they feel safe with that government, warm blanket, and they'll go along with, they'll go along with, hideous things just because they feel that's what they want. They feel safe with that. So
that's the whole basis of statism. It's the belief in authority. That's, I don't know if you've ever heard of the book. It's a PDF, and you can listen to it for free on YouTube if you're still allowed. It's called The Most Dangerous Superstition. You know of that?
No.
It's well worth looking at, and it's by a fellow called Larkin Rose. He also did the Jones Plantation. A very clever fellow. He's American, still clever though, and he talks about statism and the belief in government, and this whole business about GovCo, and it is a corporation, and it's from the top down. It's for anyone who doesn't know, there was that other video I was watching, Unemployable Media, and they interviewed the fella from the Australian Citizens Party, and he talks about one of those investment firms and how from the top down, all these big corporations which do not have you or your family's best interests at heart. It's pretty much like the Lego movie. The Lego movie becomes a freaking documentary once you know this, and it's you've got your big 4 banks in Australia, and you've got your big 2 supermarkets, right? They all donate pretty much the same amount of money to Labor and to Liberal, right? And one bank donates the same amount, and there might be different amounts, but it's the same amount to each party from each of those 4 banks and from each of those supermarkets, pretty much. So no matter what colour you paint government, it's either going to be Labor or Liberal, because it's fucking set. Like this is what the Jones Plantation talks about. And it's like, if you can't see that, then you truly are fucked up, But it's like it's a closed loop, and it's all. When you look at lenders' mortgage insurance, why don't we have a successful investigation into that, where the Australian authorities, I believe, ought to say that's criminal. You ain't doing that. You're lending the money. You say it's about, if you calculate the risk and you take the risk. Why should? But that's never going to happen, because they donate this money to these 2 political parties, and it's just like, if you think
and life just continues to get harder for the average person. Like 50 years ago, there was no FBT and CGT and GST, and the average house price was 3 times the average salary, and both parents didn't have to work. There was one parent could stay home with the kids. There was enough money to go around. But for the average person now, to be able to afford, mortgage and rent and pay all the taxes and the cost of living, it's like, it is such a battle now.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about Aussie battlers and that, but it's you'll find that, look, unless somebody's working for, I don't know, you hear it around here all the time, of the mines, that's good for you. You're earning, you're clearing 5K a week and lining the pockets of these other grubs that we talked about, But it's like, but then when the people are getting that sort of money, they still have to buy. They can't just buy a normal house. Topher Field talked about this recently, where he grew up. They had shared bedrooms. There was if you had an aircon, it was a shitty old thing hanging off the wall. They had an outside toilet. They had a car that wasn't new. Now people just have to consume, and have the latest thing, and they got to have a vanity plate on the car, and it's all this egotistical shit, and it's what what's his name, Richard Dennis talks about in Curing Affluenza. It's spending money you don't have on shit you don't need to impress people you don't know. But even without that, your an uphill battle when you just want to leave home. You got a job. You want to pay off a mortgage and have a car and maybe a motorcycle. And it's like, good for you. There's 2 regos when you should only be paying 1. There's all this tax on it, and it's like this whole belief and people getting back to people wanting to feel safe. It's a Stockholm syndrome thing where, all right, we might be held hostage here, but hey, man, they're giving us a pot to shit in the corner, and they're feeding us once in a while and letting us watch telly, and guess we'll get let out soon, and a lot of people don't want to leave when they release the hostages. That's what happened in Stockholm. I forget what the siege was, but that's where the term just arrived from. Yeah. And people just they can't fathom that perhaps your handlers are creating the problem or the perception of the problem, but then they're also coming up with a solution so that you will always go back to them. I'm quoting a lot of movies and shit here today, but it's like that Bad Boy Bubby where he thought if he went outside, that was a
classic movie.
I don't want to ever see it again. Thank you. People are probably better off imagining me rolling around naked in the gold, and that's wrong. But it's like, he for people who haven't seen it, it's who was that? That was Billy Bob Thornton, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't, and he probably wouldn't be happy that you mentioned it was in that movie. But I can't remember the actor. I haven't seen him on 2 other.
Was it Sam Neill
movies actually?
Was it Sam Neill?
Like there's definitely parts of that movie that I haven't been able to erase from my memory.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah, I still think about that cat wrapped in plastic.
Oh, the glad wrap. Yeah, I'm thinking about Flo and the 7th and 8th wonders of the world. Yeah, that fucked me up a bit. But the whole premise of the movie was this kid. He was held captive by his mother and some stepfather, whoever it was, and he was told that if he goes outside, he'll get gassed. So there's a gas mask. They go outside and they put on a gas mask. As soon as they get outside, they take it off. But that's for his benefit or to his detriment. It's like he believes, well, you can't go outside because you'll die, for starters. And it's like, where have we heard similar things in the last few years, I wonder? A big threat. Right. Oh, my God, what do we do? Something's got to be done. But lo and behold, our esteemed leaders are going to ride down on that fucking white horse and give us the answer. Yeah, bullshit. It's like, snap out of it, people, man. This is all shit.
Yeah,
it's all shit, and it's from the top down, and it's a business where you couldn't conceive. And I'm actually planning on doing another video about this in more depth. But it's like if you haven't gone down this rabbit hole or taken this red pill or whatever you want to say, it's like, well, here it is, man. You've been pissed on your whole fucking life, and this is like in our waters. It's entrenched since 1666, right? The Seta KV Trust. That's when it all started. I'll go on about birth certificates and that in another video because we want to get back to talking about self-managed super and that. But this is a tangent. But we'll get back onto that soon. But it's like this whole system is designed so that you will be in fear. You will be, and that's not a healthy state to be in. That's bad for you. Like fear exists, and the cortisol and the things that are released with fear is meant to be so because we're the same, we're wired the same as we were 5,000 years ago, and it's like that's meant to be fuck. There's a tiger after me. What do I do? You deal with that, and then you move on. You're not meant to be scared the whole goddamn every minute of your life, but this is what they feed you when you turn on that fucking piece of shit on your wall called the telly or the bloody your thing in your hand there that tells you everything. It's like, have a look next time and just ascertain. But have a look and see how much of the content that comes out of your trusted media, how much of it is fear about stock exchange, about wars, about diseases, about this and that and the other, and fucking threats and all sorts of shit. It's like they're shaking the ant farm. Look at them. Don't look at the bait. Look who's holding the fucking line. Yeah, it's like but this is all the way it's set up, and then you've got all these businesses which profit from that, and it's really is the Lego movie, and you're in it, And again, and you might find that your government is a corporation. I don't know. Do your own research. You might just discover that, and that the whole thing, when you see it, is that fucked up. But people are waking up to this. It's like, if I know about this, I'm slow to catch on to things. I don't. People go, oh, did you see this? Did you see that? Well, no, I tend to read books on that, and they're not even new books. So it's the Matrix. It's the fucking Matrix, right?
And they are, you know, they're in the process of, you know, creating the e-prison, and, you know, through digital ID and, you know, CBDCs and all these misinformation laws and all these age verification, like, this is all a setup. And, you know, people need to take action now, because in 5 years' time, it'll be a lot harder to get out of where we are.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, it's, people need to really start thinking about making plans for the future, like getting control of their money, not leaving it in the hands of nefarious organisations. Get active there. We need to change government. Yeah, we've got unfortunately we have like a difficult road ahead, and people need a plan B, I reckon. Like, if they do win this kind of war sort of thing, like, it's a dangerous future to be living in these e-prisons, because they'll control who lives and who doesn't.
Yeah.
And you know, plan B, you know, needs to be considered, like, you know, maybe getting off grid or some kind of plan there, or potentially other countries may be an option for people as well. So there are freedom countries around the world too. So
yeah, I'm hearing about people like actually leaving Australia, a country where they've lived for 30, 40, 60 years. Some of these people going overseas because this is the way it's heading. I mean, what's that? They're not doing that because they don't like fucking Europe. They're sick of looking at kangaroos. It's like, you know, this is happening, and there are things you can do. It's not all doom and gloom. It's like the first step is to be aware of it, and I implore everybody to do their research. And it's like, don't take my word for it, you know, or Chris's word. Go and do your homework. I tell people to do that. This video is for entertainment purposes only, you know.
That's right.
Go and do your own homework. You know, you've got a brain. You know, go and find out. And then it's like, what do you do to get out of that system? Well, there are a number of things you can do, and I won't start on the economy, but what you know. So people might be thinking, well, I'm just, you know, like Homer Simpson. Well, what can I do? I'm just one man. Well, there are a number of things you can do, and they are effective. Start trading with men and women in your community, like other nationals. Like, and I don't use the term person, and I don't use the term citizen. I'm talking about living entities, not corporations, right? So it's like, there's a farmer's market in this town here, and there's a few nearby. I would prefer to go to them. Things cost a little bit more. Not everything is about how much things cost. It's about where that money goes. It's about community. It's about social interaction. Look at one of the first things they did with the in the last couple of years was like, don't touch people, don't shake people's hands, don't talk to people. You know, it's like social isolation. That's not fucking good for you. So obviously, go down to the market, talk to people. Your food, it's real food. It's from nearby. Like, people talk about food miles and the environment and everything. There's that. You can form your own community groups where, and this is not difficult. It's not rocket surgery, right? Where people trade with each other, and guess what they trade with? Cash, or maybe it's and I foresee that, they do want to get rid of cash, and there's no good reason for that. They'll give you some dick slip reason, but if you're smart, I think you won't relinquish your cash because people will continue to trade with it. Like I said before, $100 is no different than $5. It's just got a different number on it, and it's a different color. Still the same polymer plastic. Do you know who invented that, by the way? Here's a fun fact. Do you know about that, Chris?
No.
It was, do you know the movie Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah.
Frank William Abagnale Jr., played by DiCaprio. He invented those notes.
Oh, right, okay.
Counterfeited, they're uncounterfeitable. But anyway, so start your own community thing and start trading with people like tradesmen, like electrician, and anybody.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of our community as we sort of grow in numbers. We start to use our money to invest in businesses that are more in line with our values and goals. So Yeah, like maybe I would love it if there was like corporations that were funded by our group, and then they had like the supermarkets. They ran supermarkets that were healthy, lot healthier and more in line with our values.
Yeah,
So
it can happen. I mean,
we have to kind of create our own financial ecosystem with kind of these ethical companies that we consider ethical. We need to create our own system.
yeah. Well, you vote when you go to the supermarket. You vote at the checkout because you're saying, I'm not buying that. I don't like it's got too much packaging, or I'm not buying that. It's full of seed oil. That's just bad news. I'm not doing that anymore. And whatever. And it's like you vote by not buying cigarettes. You're not into that. But you can also you can do things in your local community where you will only deal with people who, if people don't take cash, well, it's up to you. I mean, I'm not telling people what to do, but I'm telling you what you can do. And you can just do things. Look up the term private agreement, people. You might find that you're very glad you did, right? And, you use tradespeople who, there's electricians and everybody else is a sub-trade, right? I'm sorry, we're the king of the trades. That's just it. But it's, you use tradies who will deal with cash. Or maybe it's silver or gold. Why not? That's, it's, if we're using printed fiat currency that isn't backed by gold, it might as well be bottle caps. But as we, for the third time, it's like we just assign value to those notes. But gold or silver, I see that's making a comeback, and people will actually start trading with that. And if something's worth, I've been keeping an eye on the prices, so you probably, I think it's down just 70 something an ounce for silver, So if something's worth $70, here's an ounce of silver, spot price, why not? And then they can trade it for something else, and that's taking back. That makes us the authority. That makes us sovereign. That's taking back our sovereignty, basically. That's us taking control back. Why not?
Yeah, because we're all paying an unfair amount of taxes, and our taxes are going to this organisation, this government, that are just funding itself and trying to grow and get bigger. And we want a smaller government, less invasive on our lives. And really, hopefully in the future, the taxes can come down.
Well, this is that thing that I mentioned before, the most dangerous superstition. He talks a lot about taxes, and he makes some very Larkin Rose. He's got a real gift for making points bringing up topics that you just never saw, things that were hidden in plain sight. And he says some good things about taxes, but he makes some good points about taxes, I should say. But government, weren't our lives, you talk about the old days, when my granddad had a laptop computer, but it was black and white, no, he didn't. But back in the old days, back when fat people were jolly, we used to, our lives used to be private, and government used to do everything transparently and publicly and under the microscope.
That's right.
When the fuck did that get tipped on its head? I didn't consent on that. Like, I'm looking at doing things on a property now, and it's like, I've got subject to council approval. Like,
do you remember when we used to be the authority, back when we used to tell government what to do? Put a comment down below if you do remember that. If you don't, but you like the idea that we are the authority, that we tell those bastards what to do, not the other way around, put that in the comments too. Thanks. Back to the video.
Suck my ass. I fucking, don't get me wrong, and this is the bit where the local geniuses in the GDI and the Lithgow page here on Facebook couldn't grasp. I actually qualified this by saying we need the bins collected, we need sewerage, that saves lives. Let's be stupid here. We need lines on the road, we need the footpath fixed, we need all that. But we don't need councils to do it. We had a referendum in 1988. Look this up. It's on Know Your Rights group. We had a referendum in 1988 where we voted unanimously. It was over 60%, and I thought this was a democracy, and 60% was the majority. Was when I went to school. We voted that we did not want third-tier government. So why are we focusing on, we want the bins picked up twice a week, or we want a different colour bin, or we want to paint the library or something. No, why the fuck do we even have council telling me what I should be doing in my own home? Like, yes, things need to be, I won't say governed, but regulated, but things need to be kept an eye on. I don't want my neighbour building a 3-story garage that's going to block my view and then fall on my house. No, so somebody needs to take care of that, right? But at some point, they crossed the line, and they've done that. Wherever that point was, they fucking crossed it. So it's like, and this is all just part of that matrix system we're talking about. And one of the best ways you can do that, and here's the big save. I'll get us back on track for the people who are about to bite down on their cyanide vial or just switch off. It's like one of the best ways you can do that is also to take your take control of your superannuation. And do you want to? Well, I suppose we should get back to that. We could yak on about state of the world all day, but
the setup process, that is the hardest part of the SMSF process, and I think you might know that. Like, the process of signing the documentation, and some people have to get a director's ID, and most people are getting that offline, not through the digital ID system. It's getting done offline. And also the banks don't make it easy. They don't like super fund bank accounts. They make it a little bit hard. And also with the rollover, the existing super funds, they don't really want to let go of the money. So it can be a little bit of a challenging process to get through, but an organisation like us, we're there to help people through and try to hold their hand through the process, and a bit of motivation, and people can get it done within about 4 to 6 weeks. And then having control of that money is one thing we can do to try to help protect our future for our children, is to not leave the money in the hands of nefarious organisations. And then pushing who are intent on following the 2030 agenda sort of thing. So like too many people unfortunately in our country are really happy to not to think about super. There's like, I'll just leave it go. But unfortunately that sort of laziness is, people are taking advantage of people's ignorance in what's going on with their super. They're taking advantage of it, and they're using it for the wrong purpose.
That's right. And this is the bit, I was talking to you before we started recording. This is the bit where I don't want you to go into detail. I just want you to say yes or no. That'll work. That won't work. And we'll get more into the detail afterwards. But because there'll be a lot of people who are thinking, well, self-managed super, good. Like, I know I've got 200 grand or 600 grand or whatever, and it's like, to them, they're seeing that. They're just seeing it as a giant voucher to buy cool shit. And to them, it's like one of those fucking surfboard-sized checks that the winner gets in a sporting event, and they've got all these visions of buying some cool stuff. So we'll run through this, and you tell me yes or no. I'll tell the listeners, the viewers, yes or no, and then we'll talk about why you can and can't do certain things with your super. And I won't ask again about getting naked and rolling around. I've been told, okay. So do you know what a Norton 750 Commando fastback is, Chris?
A Norton 750 Commando fastback? No, I don't know what that is.
It was the first model of it. Well, how about a Honda 754? And I actually saw one of them today.
Yeah, never really been into cars much.
Well, these are motorcycles.
I know my car's a Toyota. I drive a Toyota, but that's all I know. It's a Toyota.
You're not even warm, man. These are motorcycles. Or some people who are on the same page as me, but Ducati Bevel Drive 900 SS. The reason I ask is because there's a lot of people who might think, well, I've got a lazy 200 grand in super, and it's like, that's going to come into my account. And classic motorcycles, that's an investment. They're only going up in value. So, like, that's a no-brainer. I can just have all these cool sleds in my shed, and I can ride them wherever I want. I can dribble on them. I'll fucking marry one of them, but only one at a time, because we're not heathens here. Will that fly? Yes or no?
Well, you can buy what they call collectibles, and that might be, a classic car. but you can't store that at your house. That would have to be stored at a location.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah,
We'll come back.
yeah.
All right, so that's okay. And then what about the people who are thinking, maybe they're not into classic motorcycles, but they're thinking, well, art, I'll invest my SMSF into these fine paintings and I'll hang them all up, and all throughout my house I'll have Picassos and I'll show my friends what a clever wanker I am.
But no, because you can't store it at home. You can't store it. Yeah.
Okay, so what about fine wine? What about the people who are into wine? Might be thinking, I'll buy 100 grand worth of wine, new beauty, pretty cute.
Yeah, well, once again, you got those collectible rules, which means you can't store it at home. So it means they have to be stored at a safety deposit box, and they're not for personal use.
Yeah, so I already knew what your answer was going to be to them, and there was so what about this is one you probably get a lot. So what if I just buy 350 grand worth of land or a house, and then I can just like fucking rent the house out to myself, and on paper everybody's happy. I get a free house, yeehaw. Once again,
unfortunately, no, you can't use your superannuation money for personal assets, for personal use.
So I think you've just I knew the answers, but I think you've just probably pissed on a few people's fires because they thought they could just buy all this cool free shit and whatever. So there are rules about what you can spend it on and where you can keep what you spend it on and everything, aren't there?
Yeah. There are rules, and there is with super. There's the sole purpose test, which is the main test, and the sole purpose of your super fund is to provide retirement benefits for you when you retire. So that's the main rule, and you're governed by that main rule. So any decision you make is for the benefit of your retirement.
Yeah. And let's face it, well, those three particular motorcycles I mentioned, especially the Ducati and the Norton, the idea of it, great, but hey, Lucas Electrics is the Prince of Darkness, and you'll soon find out that motorcycle boots ain't made for walking, so you're probably better off. But anyway,
it could breach, like buying a collectible motorbike, it could breach the rule, because you need to be able to show why an investment like that is going to help your retirement. How is that going to benefit your retirement? And if you're paying storage fees, and it's not really going up much in value, then there's an argument there to say that this is not really in the best interest of your retirement.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So all right. So let's get to the real cool bit that a lot of people have probably been waiting for. Let's talk about gold and silver and maybe platinum, palladium, whatever else. So I'm not advising people here where to invest their money. I wouldn't know, be it their super or their spare change or whatever. But without advising people, I don't know if you're qualified to advise people on this video, Chris, whatever. But what's your opinion on gold or silver as a super investment?
Yeah, gold has gained a lot of traction over the last few years, as what we're seeing globally is this attack on fiat currency. And we're seeing the US dollar losing its value as governments around the world have been printing money and devaluing fiat. But people now looking for like real wealth like gold that, it can't be manipulated like cash. And governments around the world, we're seeing central banks are actually acquiring gold. We did see that 2 years ago. The central banks around the world, they've been acquiring gold. So that's why a lot of our clients were picking up gold, because the central banks are going to know what's going on before anyone else. If they're buying gold, they know what's going on. They know what strategies are going to be planned. So that was an indicator.
Again, when you zoom out and you sort of see the whole thing, it's like I'm not suggesting or I'm not stating anything here, but have a look and just ask yourself. It's like, do these families and particular cabals, and it's always the same ones, you know, and they're right up near the top of that thing I described before. Well, you're down here, you're distracted, you know, over the fucking football and the fear that's coming out of your TV and whatever. But it's like, do they just respond to events, or do they manipulate them and pull the strings? It's like you've got to wonder. Anyway, that's an aside, I suppose. But, so if someone calls you up and calls up Jahn Group and says, I've got my SMSF set up, I've got all the numbers in the accounts and all that shit, and I want to buy a whole lot of gold and silver, or maybe platinum, and platinum, I'm hearing a bit more about that. And to me, it's like that bloke at the barbecue with a comb over and the cardigan, and he's drinking something that's
maybe copper, silver, platinum, those metals that are used are very valuable and probably going to potentially keep increasing value.
Yeah. So what's the process when they call you? How much fuckery is involved in that? If they've already got the account set up, they call you and say, look, I want to buy this much gold and this much silver. Do they call you? Do they call ABC or Ainsley or one of the other mobs?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a self-managed super fund myself. I went to a place in the city called Mint Coins, and I bought the bullion, used my super fund money. I transferred the money to him from my super fund bank account. He gave me the bullion, and then I made sure the receipt was in the name of the super fund for compliance purposes, and then I took the bullion and I stored that in my safe. And then at audit time, unfortunately the SMSFs have to get audited, and to verify the asset, the auditor just you need to send a picture of the bullion with the paper, local paper, to see the date, and that is one of the verification processes to store bullion with your super fund.
Well, actually, the local paper, I think the date and the price are about the only two things you can believe in a mainstream paper. But
that's right.
I'm thinking I'll just get some gold paper at the craft shop and get a brick. And we're recording this. No, I'm not thinking that at all. So what about, I don't know how much you know about buying gold and silver just outside of your self-managed super, but if one of the viewers has a lazy 1,000 or 2 or 10, and he says, look, the dirty fucking fleas at the bank aren't giving me anything for having my money parked in the bank account, and I don't envisage needing the money for the next 3 months or 9 months or whatever, so I might just buy some metals. What are his options in a nutshell, and how does he get the wheels turning?
Well, I think buying the metals outside of super are a lot more easier. You don't have to worry so much about the compliance. Yeah, there isn't the responsibility or obligation with storage and that sort of thing. It's up to the person on how they store it. They can dig a hole in the background if they want to. But look, there can be costs with buying and selling the metals, and that's probably something that people need to be aware of, is like the difference. What they might pay, what they might give you back in the money might be quite different from the actual selling price. So there can be fees there. So it's more of a longer term kind of investment sort of.
Usually, that's right. Yeah, there's probably a few people now, just punters who. It's better than the poker, isn't it? There's speaking of that investment boom and the supermarket pokies. You want to look at who owns most of them.
Yeah. But people's superannuation, you can see that as like a bit of a financial lifeboat, because all the assets that you can buy with your superannuation, you can buy gold and silver, and that could be important if it turns to shit. That means you've got a backup there in case, you need to use that money somehow. And secondly, people get Bitcoin as well, and that's a centralized or decentralized trust. If you need to go across borders, Bitcoin is something that can be transferred across borders. Land, if you get land, that might be used for farming purposes at a later point. So, your super fund assets can be like a bit of a financial lifeboat sort of thing.
Definitely, yeah. And I think like a lot of people might want to know, you're probably better off talking to I think there's only 2 gold bullion dealers who advertise in the Light Australia. So if anyone who advertises in the Light Australia, I'm I'm for you. You know, so there's Ainsley Bullion and there's ABC. One thing people have asked me before, and I'm certainly not a bloody guru on the topic, but they asked me how they make their money, and that's a good question. You've got your spot price, which is whatever price per ounce or per kilo or for gram or whatever it happens to be. They buy it if you want to sell it to them, they'll pay you slightly below, might be 1%, 2% below, and then when you buy it off them, you're paying 1 or 2% above spot price. And then you've got the board, and this is just what I believe. I'm certainly not an expert, and this is not advice. Contact the mobs who sell it. I'm just an electrician who makes videos. But that you can buy bullion, which is great, but you can also buy cool coins and bullions which are smaller and commemorative and things like that. But just be warned, from what I understand, no matter how collectible the round is, and the round just means like a round bullion, it's not actually a coin because it's not perceived as currency, but you will only get the price per weight. So if it's a 1 ounce round, it doesn't matter what's on it, picture wise or whatever, you generally just get paid for that. Collectors will give you a bit more, but if you just need the money, you take it into a dealer, they're probably just going to pay you for that. So you might have lost $5 or $10 or whatever on that. Do your homework, people, and find out. Have you seen the ads on Evil Bay where they'll advertise a silver ounce round, and it will be the title will be, it might be Australian koala or bloody whatever, or 1 ounce Krugerrand or some commemorative thing, and it's exactly the same as the one. It looks exactly the same as the one you might see on Ainsley Bullion or ABC. But
okay, like a scam, is it?
It's a fucking scam, all right. Like they're well, if anything,
probably aluminium or something, is it? Yeah.
No. It's not even that valuable, mate. It's generally they're steel and they're silver plated, so they're shiny. And it's only when you read the fine print, and it's like anything in the last. Well, we won't go over the same ground again, but it's like anything. It's like, if you haven't woken up in the last 5 years, you need to delve into things and like ask the questions, and like things just don't stack up. And if it seems too good to be true, it's bullshit, So it's like, yeah, I thought, how are they fucking selling? This is like other ones were sort of 95 for the same thing, and I'm looking on there and they're like 65, and so immediately call me a skeptic, but call me a conspiracy theorist. But I smelled a rat, and it's only when you read the fine print, it's silver plated, so you're getting about 13 cents worth of silver. So yeah, don't be a dickhead and buy that shit. That's not an investment. You're getting sucked in.
That's right. Yeah.
So this is unless you've got anything else important to add, I was going to get to the uber cool bit that we were talking about before about our deal.
Yeah, that's right. Like we'll be really happy to pass on any like a 10% saving if people quote the Red Pill Sparky code name, and that would reduce the cost of the setup. And they'll be supporting some great organisations that are supporting them.
That's it. So there it is. Like I do advise people to shop around, and please support businesses who are awake, like we said before, like your local electrician or any other sub trade who does work as a private agreement, and or any of the businesses who advertise in the Light Australia. That's a cause that's dear to my heart. And if you don't have a physical copy of the Light Australia, get onto the lightaustralia.com. You can read it there. Why don't you buy 10 copies to hand out, or just give them a donation or whatever, or buy one of their T-shirts and scope it all out. But if you do decide to start up a self-managed super fund, and I implore you to do so, and you decide to go through Jahn Group, and that's just, what's your website, Chris?
Yeah, jahnsuper.com.au.
There you go. There you have it. Just quote the code. Just tell them code Sparky or Red Pill Sparky if you like. Yeah. And don't forget that Chris is in WA, so they're 40 years behind. 3 hours behind. So, if you're on the other half of Australia, just bear that in mind. And there you are. You can get yourself a 10% discount just by mentioning the code Sparky or Red Pill Sparky. Make sure they give you that discount. And before we go, I don't think I've hit you up with quite enough questions.
Okay.
So, yeah, just a couple of rapid fire ones. Where do you see Australia in 6 months' time?
6 months' time, I don't see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because of these new rules that are coming through, age verification. So I think we're going to see more protests and a bit more unruly behaviour and more government disdain. But yeah, not a huge difference in 6 months' time. I think. Yeah, it's hard to see. I see society going in two paths. I see there's the digital e-prison community, and then I see the people that are outside that system who get kicked out of that normal system, and then we're living our own communities probably outside that. Unfortunately, if we lose the battle and these bastards keep running the show, we're going to have to exit the system, or we'll be forced out of it anyway, because you'll have to do certain things to comply, and we're not going to be able to comply with those rules.
Yeah.
That's
do you see it lasting forever? Do you see that there'll be a difference in, say, 5 years' time? Will it sort of steer itself out of it? People will wake up and it'll be harder for them. It'll be a lot harder once they've sleepwalked into that trap. Do you see that in 5 years? I think it'll be a whole lot different. People will just get off the matrix and want to be part of the parallel economy, and therefore the matrix will collapse. How do you see it?
Yeah, we're up against a very powerful force, extremely powerful in terms of wealth. So they might back off and their agendas might fail. So they'll probably disappear for a certain amount of time, but it's I just don't know. It's so hard to tell at this point in time, like if they're going to be successful. But I hope not, and I really appreciate guys like yourself who are putting up a hard fight, and hopefully we can steer ourselves to a good path. It's not going to be an easy road, but it's important that we give it a crack. We try our best. Yeah.
Nothing worthwhile is ever easy. But and you're doing your bit too, and a lot of other businesses are. And I hear I won't go on about this all day, but it's like I do hear from people who go, oh yeah, they're all just dumb, they're all asleep and whatever. But it's not. I'm meeting more and more awake people all the time, and it's just we definitely have the numbers. Excuse me. We don't need everybody. We just need enough. Ricardo Bosi kept saying that. He's right, and. Well, I think we've got the numbers, and it's just a matter of getting those people to do something, or in a lot of cases, not do the same thing. And just to make nothing changes if nothing changes, right? So I think that will happen. It's going to be hard to watch because you're going to see a lot of people just march lockstep into that same way they did a few years ago, and it's like, fuck, man, we tried to warn you, But I think with a lot of people, the hypnosis is worn off, and I don't think this sort of shit will sell as well with the shit that they want to foist on us. It's not going to sell as well as it would have 6 or 7 years ago. So
I think we could face like some kind of financial sort of Armageddon where the system is turned off somehow, or the financial system crashes in a certain way. So. Everyone needs to be ready for something to happen, whether it might be a cyber attack and you can't access the internet, or everyone needs to be vigilant in preparing for what might come.
There'll be plenty of that, and you just need to sort of ask yourself, man, come on, if and a lot of people are already singing from the same hymn book, but for those who aren't, it's like, if you're just stepping down the rabbit hole, if that stuff that I ranted on about before and Chris did, if we did that for a reason. Like, if that's all new to you, then welcome to the rabbit hole. And an important thing is to ask yourself, like, follow the money. Is whatever's happening the next big scare that's on the news? And I don't watch the freaking news, but it's the next big scare. Just ask yourself, who's profiting from this? Could this be a false flag? Could all those conspiracy theorists be right? Maybe. So it's like, but just be prepared. And we've discussed a few of the ways that you might be prepared with precious metals and everything. But mate, I think we'll leave it there. We've run out of bullshit, haven't we? So
we probably could crap on for another few hours, couldn't we? But best to wrap it up. Yeah.
But I'll get my very ingeniously clever editor to run some numbers on the screen. So there's the details for jahngroup.com.au. If you want to support this channel, please buy me a coffee. Get over to Buy Me a Coffee, and the details of that are on the screen. And because they don't give coffee away, do they? And please speak to the Jahn Group and pick their brains about how you can take control of your superannuation. Chris, thank you so much for being on the Red Pill Sparky, mate.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, and good luck in the future.
Yeah, thank you very much, man.